The silent crash. The sky was calm. Stars blinked softly above the forest. James sat alone outside his shelter, sipping a cup of warm liquid. It was quiet, too quiet. Then, without warning, a loud boom ripped across the sky like thunder. He looked up. A streak of light cut through the stars, something big, something burning. It wasn't a meteor, it was a ship, and it was crashing. James dropped his cup. It hit the ground and spilled, but he didn't care. His boots pounded the ground as he grabbed a small pack and flashlight. Within minutes, he was running through the dark woods, dodging trees, jumping over roots. Smoke started filling the air. The crash site was close. Too close. When he reached it, the wreckage was still glowing hot. Broken metal pieces lay everywhere. Some blinked with strange lights. He had never seen tech like this before. This was no human ship. His heart raced. He stepped carefully, scanning for any sign of life. Then he saw it, movement near the center of the wreck. Someone, or something, was crawling. James rushed forward and stopped. Lying there was a girl, or at least she looked like a girl. Silver hair flowed around her face, her skin glowing faintly under the firelight. Her eyes, half open, shone like violet crystals. She wasn't human. She looked at him, her hand lifted slightly, pointing a small weapon at his chest. Her arm trembled. She was weak. James slowly raised both hands. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said calmly. "You're hurt. Let me help." Her lips moved, but no words came out. Then, her arm dropped, and the weapon fell to the ground. James hurried to her side. Her body was light. Too light, like she didn't belong to this planet. Carefully, he lifted her up and carried her away from the wreckage. Behind him, the fire burned brighter. Something inside the ship sparked and exploded. But he didn't look back. His shelter was hidden under a hill. A small steel door led to the underground space where he lived. Once inside, he laid her gently on a cot and turned on the soft lights. The alien girl didn't open her eyes. She was breathing, but it was slow and shallow. James checked her wounds. Nothing fatal, but her body was bruised and cut. Some kind of energy burn marked her left side. He cleaned her up as best as he could using water and ointments from his supply. He wrapped her injuries in cloth. While he worked, he couldn't stop staring. Her face looked peaceful, like something from a dream. Not just beautiful, but strange, mysterious. Her ears were long and pointed, her fingers delicate like glass. Who was she? And why had she crashed here? James sat back and sighed. It was dangerous to bring her here. If someone was chasing her, they might come for him next. But he couldn't leave her out there, not alone, not dying. Hours passed. The girl stirred. James sat up quickly. Her eyes opened. Fully this time. They locked on his. "You saved me," she whispered, her voice soft and musical. He nodded. "Yeah, your ship crashed. You almost died." She looked around, confused. Her eyes landed on the warm blanket covering her. Then she stared back at him. "Why?" she asked. He blinked. "Why what? Why save me?" James shrugged. "I saw someone in trouble. That's enough." She closed her eyes briefly. "Most wouldn't." He smiled a little. "I'm not most people." Suddenly she sat up straight. Her hand went to her chest, where a small glowing emblem pulsed faintly. "What's wrong?" he asked. She looked at him, serious now. "You don't understand. By saving me, you triggered something sacred." James raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" She leaned forward, her eyes glowing brighter. "My people have ancient vows, life debt laws. When one saves the life of royal blood, the bond is eternal." His heart skipped a beat. "Wait, are you saying you're—" "Princess Lysera," she said quietly, "of the Valerie Star Throne." James stared. A princess. From a race he'd never heard of. "And now," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper, "you are bound to me. Until death." Before James could speak, a sound echoed from above. A sharp screech. Something was flying overhead. Lizara's eyes widened. They found us. He grabbed his weapon. The night had just begun. Stranger in the shelter. The shelter was silent, but James could feel something had changed. Princess. Lizara lay still on the cot, her violet eyes closed, her chest rising slowly. The soft blue lights in the room made her silver hair glow like moonlight. She looked peaceful. But James knew peace wouldn't last. The screech they had heard above ground was not from the wind. James checked the upper hatch monitor. Static. Then a flash. Movement in the trees. Something had landed, but it wasn't a rescue ship. He turned back to the girl. Lizara, a princess. A real alien princess. And now, according to her words, bound to him by some ancient vow. James sat down on the edge of the metal bed. His mind raced. Why him? Why this? He was just a repair tech living off-grid near a deep space frontier. He wanted quiet, not chaos. But now he was part of something much bigger. Suddenly Lizara gasped. Her eyes flew open, glowing like stars. She reached for the glowing mark on her chest and winced. "You must hide," she whispered. "They are near." "I'm not leaving you," James said firmly. She shook her head. "You don't understand. You're not their target anymore. You're part of me now. They'll kill us both." James stood. "Then we fight together." A long pause. Her expression softened. "You don't even know what you've stepped into." He gave a small smile. "No, but I know I'm not stepping out." That night, the shadows grew thicker outside the shelter. James turned on the external motion sensors. They beeped lightly, then fell silent. But something was triggering them. Something quiet, slow, hunting. Lizara sat up, finally strong enough to walk a few steps. She moved with grace, her robe flowing behind her like water. She approached a small table filled with James's old tech gear. Her fingers hovered over the parts, touching pieces with curiosity. "This is your world?" she asked softly. James nodded. "It's simple. I fix things. Stay out of people's way." She turned, meeting his eyes. "Now you've fixed something much bigger, and it won't stay simple anymore." He looked at her carefully. "What do they want from you?" She paused, then sat down slowly. "My people are split," she said. "We once ruled peacefully over many stars, but there are those who believe the old ways are weak. One of them, my cousin, Vare, staged a coup. He attacked the royal fleet and declared himself ruler. I escaped barely." "And the vow?" James asked. Lizara nodded. "The Valeri life debt vow is sacred. If someone saves royal blood in mortal danger, they are bound, protected, respected, even feared. The bond cannot be broken." James raised an eyebrow. "Even by you?" She shook her head. "Not even by me. If I die, the bond dies with me. But until then, I must protect you as you protected me. Our fates are now one." Suddenly, the outer alarms blared. A red light flashed on the corner of the monitor. "They're here," James said. He ran to his weapon rack. A plasma rifle, low charge, a sidearm, a few smoke grenades. He handed a small energy knife to Lizara. She accepted it without a word, gripping it like someone born to fight. On the screen, dark shapes moved closer. "They are cloaked assassins," Lizara said. "My cousin's elite hunters, trained to kill without sound, without mercy." James nodded grimly. "Well, I hope they bleed." She looked at him with something close to respect. "You are strange for a human." "Thanks," he said. "I get that a lot." The shelter shook. A small blast hit the entry hatch. Smoke hissed through the cracks. James pulled Lizara behind a pillar. The air was thick with tension. Then, silence. James's Heart pounded in his ears. He held his breath. Suddenly, a figure dropped from the ceiling vent above, quiet as a ghost. James turned just in time and fired. The plasma shot lit the room in white-blue light, hitting the figure in the chest. It screamed, inhuman, high-pitched, and collapsed, armor sizzling. Another figure leapt through the broken hatch, blades drawn. Lysra spun forward, graceful and deadly. Her energy knife met the assassin's blade, sparks flying. They moved fast, almost. Too fast for James to follow. But Lysra was faster. She spun, struck, and brought the assassin down in one smooth motion. Breathing heavily, she looked at James. That was 2. There are always 3, James nodded. Then where's the 3rd? A sudden growl. From behind, James turned. Too late. The 3rd assassin slammed him to the ground. A sharp blade pressed against his throat. Then, everything went still. The blade didn't move. The assassin looked confused, frozen. James saw Lysra standing behind them, hand raised. Her mark, glowing red, shone brightly. The assassin looked at her and dropped his weapon. Lysra stepped forward and whispered something in a language James couldn't understand. The assassin screamed, then fell to the ground, lifeless. James gasped for air. What was that? Lysra helped him up. Her eyes were still glowing. It's part of the bond, she said. When someone threatens you, I can command the vow's energy to stop them. It drains me. But it works. James stared at her. I guess I owe you one now. She smiled weakly. We are even. That night they buried the bodies far outside the shelter. James placed energy disruptors to prevent tracking signals. They returned to the underground chamber, both silent. James sat by the wall, wiping the blood off his hands. Lysra sat beside him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then she said softly, You should have run. You didn't have to fight for me. He looked at her. Neither did you. But you did. She turned her face toward him. In the soft blue glow, her alien features looked almost human. Almost. We are no longer strangers, she said. James nodded. The voice that hunts, the voice echoed again, crackling through the broken speaker. You belong to me. 3 words. Cold as space, sharp as a blade. Lysra's face went pale. Her violet eyes flicked toward the radio, then toward James. She looked like she was sinking into a memory. Something dark. James stepped forward and tapped the comms. Who is this? Silence. Then the voice returned, deeper this time. The girl is mine. The bond is false. Return her, or I will take her limb by limb. Slowly. James clenched his jaw. Not happening. Static. Then silence again. The screen flickered once, then went dark. James turned to Lysra. That's him. Vare? She nodded slowly. Yes. Vare the usurper, my cousin, once close to me. Now, a monster. Her voice trembled slightly. James had never seen her afraid like this. What does he mean? He says the bond is false. Lysra stepped away, breathing deeply. The life-debt bond can only be formed under truth. But Vare lies. He believes by claiming me with words, he owns me. As if I'm a prize, a weapon. He knows the bond is real. He just wants to tear it apart. James stared at her. So he's coming. She nodded again. And he's not coming to kill me. He's coming to control me. They didn't have much time. James grabbed a datapad and opened the hidden emergency route map. It led underground, tunnels built by early miners before this world was abandoned. Dangerous, narrow, unstable, but maybe it was their only way out. He packed quickly. Food, medkits, weapons, thermal suits. Lysra stood quietly watching. Do you trust me? He asked, meeting her eyes. I already owe you my life, she said. Now, I trust you with my fate. They descended into the tunnels before the second sun rose. The underground path was cold and narrow. Pipes hissed. Some sections were flooded, others cracked with old age. James walked first, scanning ahead with a light. Lysera followed silently, her silver robes glowing faintly in the dark. "Why does he want you so badly?" James asked after hours of walking. She stopped, then whispered, "Because of what I carry." James turned. "What do you mean?" Lysera pulled back the collar of her robe, revealing a strange device, embedded just above her heart. It pulsed with a faint golden glow. "It's called a core key," she said. "It controls access to the vault of Myria." James frowned. "What's in the vault?" "Power," she said simply. "Enough to control or destroy entire star systems. My family has kept it hidden for centuries. Only those of royal blood can open it. And I am the last one left." James stared at her. "So he doesn't just want you. He wants that device." She nodded. "If he gets it, entire worlds will burn. He will wipe out all resistance and rule forever." They reached an old rest station built into the tunnel wall. James secured the door. Lysera collapsed onto the metal bench. She looked exhausted. James handed her a water pouch. She drank slowly. "Why do you stay with me?" she asked suddenly. James raised an eyebrow. "Because it's right." "No," she said. "There must be more." He sighed. "Maybe. I see something in you. You lost everything, but you didn't give up. You still fight. I know that feeling." Lysera looked at him. "You've lost someone too." James turned away. "My sister. A long time ago. War claimed her. I was supposed to protect her. I failed." A long silence passed between them. Lysera reached out and gently touched his hand. "Then we both carry ghosts." Later that night they were asleep, until a soft scratching sound echoed through the wall. James snapped awake. Lysera sat up immediately, knife in hand. The sound grew louder, like claws against steel. Suddenly, boom! The wall behind them exploded. Inward. Dust and sparks filled the air. Figures poured in, 4 of them. Tall, armored, glowing red eyes. Vare's death squad. James fired wildly. 2 shots hit the first attacker, knocking it back. Lysera moved fast, blade in hand, ducking and spinning. She sliced through one enemy's leg, causing sparks and screams. But the third one grabbed James, slamming him against the wall. Lysera screamed his name, but before she could reach him, the 4th figure grabbed her by the throat and slammed her down. Her core key began glowing brightly, reacting to the danger. The assassin holding James raised a blade. Then, bzzzt! A pulse of golden light burst from Lysera's chest. It shook the walls, burning through the attacker's armor like fire through paper. One by one they dropped, screaming, melting into the floor. Silence. Smoke. James coughed and rolled to his side. "What was that?" Lysera looked dazed. "The core key. It reacted to your life being in danger. It protected you. But that much power, I can't control it for long." James helped her up. "We need to move. Now." They ran for hours deeper into the tunnels. Eventually, they reached a hidden chamber, one that Lysera seemed to recognize. "This is it," she whispered. "An old Valerie relay station. I can contact the last loyal fleet, if any still live." James activated the console. A weak signal blinked. Suddenly the screen came to life, and a face appeared, an old alien warrior with scarred cheeks and glowing blue armor. "Princess Lysera," he said. "We feared you were dead." "I'm alive," she said, "but not safe. Vare hunts me. I carry the key." The warrior nodded. "Then you must reach the Bastion of Stars. It's our last stronghold. We will meet you there." James asked, "How far is it?" "Far," the warrior said, "but we will send coordinates and an escort team. Hold your position." The screen blinked and cut out. James turned to Lysera. "We've got hope." She nodded. "For now." But as they prepared to rest, James heard a final sound from his comm unit. Another signal. A private one. He opened it. Bear's face filled the screen. Pale. Cruel. Smiling. "You think this ends with escape?" he hissed. "She's not your princess. She's my tool. You're nothing. A broken human playing protector. But you can't save her from me." Then his eyes turned cold. "Tell her I remember the fire. Tell her the vault will open. Whether her heart beats or not." The screen went black. James stared at the dark screen. Lysera looked at him. "What did he say?" James hesitated, then said quietly, "He said he remembers the fire." Lysera's face turned white. James stepped closer. "What does that mean?" Her voice broke. "He was there, when my father was burned alive, when our capital fell." James gripped her hand. "Then we end this. The bastion isn't safe." The coordinates blinked slowly on James's datapad, glowing like a heartbeat in the dark. Bastion of Stars, Valerie's last hidden stronghold. But it wasn't close. To reach it, James and Lysera had to cross two abandoned zones, a collapsed transport line and an unstable asteroid belt filled with old war wreckage, fields where even machines refused to go. And now, someone was watching them from orbit. "We don't have a ship," James muttered, staring at the broken exit of the mining tunnel. "And the ones flying above us aren't here to give rides." Lysera stepped beside him, her silver hair pulled back, her core key pulsing softly. "I know of one," she said quietly. "An old Valeri scout craft buried in Sector 9. It was hidden during the uprising. I don't know if it still works." James looked at her. "If it doesn't, we die," she said simply. The next 3 days were brutal. They walked through frozen valleys and heat-scorched plains. Storms lashed their faces. Strange creatures watched from the hills, silent, curious, waiting for weakness. James grew thinner, but his mind stayed sharp. He learned quickly. When Lysera stopped, he stopped. When she turned, he turned. Her senses were faster, but he had instinct, and he had a reason to keep moving. Every night the same dream came back. Vare's voice whispering, laughing, reaching through the dark like claws. By the 4th day they reached Sector 9. It looked like a graveyard, twisted metal, shattered, towers. Old plasma burns across the rock. But beneath one mountain slope, Lysera found what she was looking for. A steel hatch, buried deep in ash. She pressed her hand to a glowing circle on the side. It lit up. A rumble shook the ground. The hatch opened. With a hiss, inside was the scout ship, sleek, black, covered in dust but still whole. James stepped forward, eyes wide. "You weren't lying." "I never lie," she said softly. They powered the ship with a portable cell from James's pack. Lights flickered on. The engines coughed, then roared to life. James took the pilot seat, wiping away the dust. "You ever flown one of these?" Lysera strapped herself in beside him. "Only in training, but I remember enough to not crash." He smirked. "That's all I ask." The ship lifted into the sky, piercing through layers of clouds. But as they left the atmosphere, James saw something horrifying. A massive black cruiser hanging in orbit, no insignia. No lights, just a dark shape watching them. Lysera's face went cold. "Vare." A warning alarm shrieked in the cockpit. Target lock detected. Missile incoming. James grabbed the controls. "Hold on." He twisted the ship sharply. The missile streaked past, but another one followed. Faster, smarter. Lysera reached out, fingers glowing, and touched the core key. The scout ship responded. An energy shield burst around it. Ancient Valeri tech activated by her blood. The missile hit and bounced off. James stared. "I didn't know it could do that." Lysera smirked. "Neither did I." They pushed the ship harder, sped through debris, past broken satellites, through fields of frozen corpses and shattered ships from old battles. But finally, The bastion came into view, a hidden space fortress buried inside a dying moon. It opened like a flower as they approached, silent, majestic. James landed the ship with shaking hands, and as they stepped out, they were surrounded by soldiers. Blue, armor, Valerie crests, glowing weapons. One stepped forward and dropped to one knee. Princess Lysera, welcome home. The voice from beyond the stars. The room trembled. Sirens howled in alien tones. Light panels flickered, then shattered into sparks. The once proud bastion of stars, hidden and mighty, was now cracking from within. James pressed Lysera against the wall of the cell, shielding her as debris fell. The walls shook again. The very structure groaned like it was alive, and in pain. That voice, it still echoed in his ears. Return the heart of Myria, or be unmade. Lysera's core key glowed, brighter now, as if it had heard the voice too, and remembered it. James turned to her. What is Myria? What did that thing mean? She looked up, terrified. Myria was the first world, the place where the Valari were created, where the core keys were forged. But it's just a legend, right? James asked. No. Lysera shook her head. It was lost. Buried, in time. But that voice, it came from something ancient. Older than Valari, older than anything. She stared at her hand. The core key pulsed wildly, out of her control. I think it knows who I am, and it wants me back. Above them, chaos erupted across the bastion. Security droids malfunctioned. Valari officers screamed into broken comms. The unknown ship, black as space and silent, hovered outside, doing nothing, except staring. General Vecra stood in the war room, lips tight. Identify that vessel, the AI replied, trembling with its own code. Unidentified class. Technology exceeds all known databases. Warning, it may possess a god-level threat matrix. Vecra gritted her teeth. I don't care if it's a ghost. Lock weapons, prepare to fire. But the targeting system refused. Error. This vessel cannot be targeted. Back in the prison chamber, Lysera stood slowly. Her chains were gone, melted by the core key. James supported her. We have to move, now. He looked at the guards, outside the force field, frozen, not breathing, no alarms, no motion, he whispered. They're dead. Lysera's hand trembled. The key didn't do that. I know, James replied. Something else did. He searched the control panel and jammed the release. The energy field dropped. They stepped out. Quiet, careful, all around them. Bodies. Some twisted, some turned to ash. Whatever came from that ship wasn't here to negotiate. James grabbed a weapon from a fallen guard and gave Lysera a shock blade. They made their way through the corridor. Step by step, at every turn the walls were darker. Lights flickered, no longer white but a deep, sickly green. Then, the whispers began. Not from speakers, not from guards, from inside their heads. You hold what belongs to us. We shaped your kind. Return her, or all shall forget the stars. Lysera fell to her knees. Make it stop, she cried. James knelt beside her, grabbing her shoulders. Look at me, focus. On my voice. The core key pulsed again, and the whispers stopped. Suddenly, the floor ahead cracked open. A black tendril, shaped like a claw made of mist and metal, burst through. James didn't hesitate. He fired. The pulse shot ripped through the arm, but it only staggered it. He yelled, "Run!" They sprinted down the hallway, the monster chasing them, phasing through walls like smoke. Lysera tapped her core key against a panel, and a secret door opened. They jumped inside and locked it behind them. It was a relic chamber, old, untouched, in the center, a glowing star map, thousands of galaxies swirling, around one black dot. Myria, Lysera gasped. This was hidden even from me. James touched the edge of the map. This is what they wanted? She nodded. This, and me. The core key is a fragment. My bloodline holds the lock. She stepped forward, and the map responded to her presence. A secret unlocked. A message flickered in the air, left by the first architect of the Valari. If the heart ever wakes and flee, the void gods will come. James froze. Void gods? Lysera whispered. That's what they are. The voice we heard, the thing outside. It's not Vare's enemy. It's older, bigger. It created the key, and now it wants it back. Meanwhile, General Vecra tried to rally what was left of her forces. But the lights went out, every console died. Then her guards started bleeding from their eyes without being touched. Her mouth opened to shout, but her own shadow rose and gripped her throat. The last thing she heard was, "She was never yours." And she vanished. James and Lysera escaped through a maintenance shaft. As they crawled, Lysera said, "There's one last ship in the hangar. It's ancient Valari tech. Fast. Hidden." James nodded. "Then we use it. We run." Lysera paused. "We won't outrun them, not forever." He looked at her. "What are you saying?" She turned, eyes full of light now. "The key can fight back, but I can't do it alone." In the hangar, the ancient Valari ship stood like a sleeping bird, black metal, wings tucked, eyes glowing faintly. They ran to it. But as they reached the ramp, Vare stepped out of the shadows, alive and smiling. "Well done," he said. "You brought her right to me." James aimed his gun. "I'll kill you." "You'll try," Vare sneered. He raised his hand, holding a broken fragment. Another. Core key but corrupted. Lysera screamed. "No, that's from the Tomb of Mothers." Vare laughed. "Power belongs to those who use it." He activated it. The hangar exploded in color and sound. James was thrown across the floor. His gun slid away. Vare approached Lysera, grabbing her arm, but the core key flared, blinding him with white-hot light. She floated in the air, her eyes glowed pure silver, and behind her, the black ship outside the station moved. For the first time, it sent a beam not to destroy, but to link. The key connected with it. A presence entered the room. Vast. Endless. It spoke through Lysera's voice. "The time has come. Return the heart. Accept the bond," Vare screamed. "No, it's mine." But the power rejected him, and he was unmade. Gone. The ship opened. A staircase extended. Lysera turned to James. Her voice returned to normal, but tears ran down her face. "I can stop them, but I can't come back." James stepped forward. "Then I'm coming with you." She shook her head. "This place, this galaxy, needs humans too. You're more important than you know." He grabbed her hand. "I don't care about destiny. I care about you," she smiled softly, then kissed him. "I'll find you again across stars, across time." She stepped into the ship, and it rose silently into the void. The chosen flame awakens. The hangar was silent. The black ship had vanished into folds of starlight, taking Lysera and the core key with it. But the memory of her kiss still burned on James's lips. He stood alone now, surrounded by broken steel, flickering sparks, and dead silence. But something inside him had changed. His hand still held a fragment, a glowing shard of Lysera's core key. It pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. He clutched it tighter. Suddenly the air shimmered around him, and time itself paused. Even the sparks froze mid-air. "You were never just a protector," a deep voice said. James spun. Behind him stood a man in ancient armor, formed from starlight and dust. His face looked human, but too perfect, too eternal. "You carry a forgotten flame," the being continued, "and now it begins to burn again." James stepped back. "Who? What are you?" The figure didn't answer directly. He waved a hand, and the room around them dissolved into a vision. The past. James saw Earth, but not as he knew it. Ancient. Cities floated above oceans, massive beasts walked beside men. And in the sky, alien ships hovered like gods. Long ago, the being said, your kind stood beside the stars. You were not just born on Earth. You were crafted as warriors. James stared in disbelief. Humans were made, he whispered. Made to resist, made to fight the void, but your creators vanished and the flame inside you was buried. The vision changed again. He saw Lysera, floating inside the black ship, surrounded by swirling energy. She was connected to something vast, ancient. She was crying. James reached toward her image, but his hand passed through. She is the key, the being said, but you are the flame. Together you unlock the war of wills. The vision vanished. The hangar returned. Time resumed, and James gasped, for now he was not alone. The surviving Valari, what few remained, were pointing weapons. At him, human, one shouted. Step away from the relic, you have no right to wield it. James looked down. The shard in his hand was glowing brighter, reacting. I didn't ask for this, he growled. But now, I won't give it back. The Valari. Soldiers opened fire. James dodged left, barely. But instead of running, he raised the shard and it pulsed. Boom. A wave of energy exploded outward. Not fire, not sound, but something older. Something that made even time hesitate. The soldiers froze mid-motion, their weapons falling. James felt the shard burn against his skin, but it didn't hurt. It was waking up. He ran. Through busted corridors, past shattered statues. The bastion of stars was collapsing. Without Vare, without Lysera, the ancient systems were breaking down. But James had a destination. The Vault of Origins. Lysera had once mentioned it, sealed beneath the station, locked by bloodlines. Now, with her gone, only he had the shard, and the vault was calling him. He reached the lower deck. Doors that had stood for 10,000 years now opened at his touch. Inside, he found it, a chamber lit by living stars, and in the center, a sphere of glowing crystal. Inside it floated an ancient tablet, inscribed in both human and alien script. The moment James stepped closer, the crystal dissolved. The tablet fell into his hands. Words blazed across it. The blaze-born shall rise. The key shall unlock the dark. The flame and the core together shall either seal or shatter the gods. James whispered. What the hell does that mean? But part of him already knew. Suddenly the ground split. A new voice echoed inside the chamber, colder than, fares deeper than the black ships. You walk where only architects once dared. From the shadows, a figure emerged. It had no face. Only smoke and stars swirling in a cloak of night. In its hand was a blade made of silence. The void god had come. James took a step back. The being raised the blade. Return the shard. Or, we end your flame now, but James didn't run. He looked at the tablet, then at the shard, then at the being. No, he said. I am the flame. The shard in his hand exploded with light, the chamber filled with burning wind. And James changed. Armor formed across his body, not metal, but memory. Wings of light unfolded from his back and behind his eyes. Old knowledge returned. He remembered what humans had once been and what he was becoming now. The void god attacked. James blocked with the shard. It morphed into a shield. They clashed. Flames and shadow, light and void. Every strike shook the walls. The stars in the chamber screamed, but James didn't falter. He found the rhythm. The power. He struck back, and the void god screamed. You were not meant to awaken, it hissed. James gritted his teeth. Too late. One final blast. The void god broke into dust. James collapsed to his knees. The armor faded. The shard flickered, but it was done. The vault sealed behind him, and in the silence the tablet whispered, "Find her. Across the dark, she holds the rest of you. The flame and the core, one last stand." The stars were dying. One by one, they blinked out across the sky, swallowed by creeping voids. James stood on the edge of an ancient platform, floating high above a shattered world. Cracks ran across the planet's crust. The air hummed with leftover power. This was Myria, the origin of everything, and it was breaking. In his hand, the shard pulsed like a heartbeat. Behind him, the last human fleet waited in orbit. Ships from Earth, old, outgunned, but loyal. They had followed James not because he was a commander, but because he carried the flame, and because they knew this was humanity's final stand. James spoke into the open air. "Come on, Lysera. I followed your light across galaxies. Where are you?" The shard in his palm burned white-hot, then exploded in a burst of symbols, a beacon. Suddenly, the space above warped. The black ship returned, silent, elegant, ancient. It hovered for only a moment, then opened like a blooming flower, and from the light inside, Lysera stepped out. Her armor shimmered like the core itself. Her eyes held 1,000 years of memory. James met her halfway. They stood before each other, silent. Then, finally, she smiled. "You found me." "I never stopped," James said. They embraced, but it was short, because the sky screamed. A tear ripped across the heavens. From it, a void leviathan emerged, bigger than worlds. Its body was made of broken time and starlight. Its eyes were empty. The final void god had come. "They have reunited," it said, its voice shaking the bones of reality. "Then they must be undone." Lysera turned to James. "We have one." Chance, she raised her hand. The core key ignited into full power. James raised the shard. The flame key responded. They touched. Boom! A shockwave shot across Myria. Their minds linked. They saw everything. How the void gods had used the Valari to break galaxies. How humans were made to resist them. How the core and flame were once one, and now they were again. Together, James and Lysera rose into the air. Their bodies glowed. Their voices merged. "We are the flame. We are the core. We are the memory and the future. And we will not be erased." The void Leviathan attacked. Reality trembled. But James and Lysera flew forward. Light versus darkness. Hope versus void. Every blast they sent carved through the god's body. Every strike pushed back the dark, but it wasn't enough. The void god roared and unmade a human ship with a whisper. James shouted, "We need more." Lysera gritted her teeth. "There is one more key, but it's inside you." James closed his eyes. He dove into his own mind, into his own blood. And there, in the deepest corner of his being, he saw it, a final memory, of Earth's first fire, of the moment when humans defied the stars. He gripped that fire and pulled it out. It became a sword, forged in rage, tempered in hope. And when he opened his eyes, he was no longer James. He was humanity's flame incarnate. He slashed through the void god's arm, cleaving it clean off. Lysera followed, her core shining bright. They moved together, two lights dancing in the dark. And then, they reached the heart of the god. James held the sword. Lysera held the key. And together, they drove it into the god's chest. By the flame. And by the core. "You are finished." The void god screamed, then shattered, into dust, into peace. Silence. The stars began to return, one by one, as if hope itself was being restored. James and Lysera landed softly on Myria's broken surface. The black ship came down beside them, around them. The air shimmered. not just because of energy, but because beings were watching. Valari spirits, human ancestors, the architects. They had seen the war end, and they bowed. One figure stepped forward, a woman with silver skin and burning eyes. You did what none could, she said. You reunited what was broken, flame and core, heart and will. James looked around. What happens now? The woman smiled. Now, you build. Cut to, years later. A new city rose on Myria, not human, not Valari, but both, side by side. Old enemies, new friends. And in the center a statue stood, James and Lysera, holding the flame and core together. Children ran through the halls of learning. Starships flew not for war but for unity. And across the stars the story spread. There was once a human, who shielded an alien girl from a death blade. And together they changed the fate of gods.